right, let's talk about the energy crisis in Europe and beyond, because it does seem like the countries that are deciding to politicize energy consumption are the ones that are suffering the most. Germany didn't listen to Greta Thunberg. They shut down their nuclear plants and will now return to coal-powered plants. Remember a few months ago when activist Greta Thunberg was arrested in Germany? Here's that footage.
You are not alone. You are not alone. You are not
So the police
Platz machen!
the first person to the identity check. We inform you that you
What's happening there is that she was protesting the building of a new coal plant and insisting that Germany reverse course on shutting down nuclear power. In this case, we think she was correct. There is no sense in closing down affordable energy that has no carbon emissions in favor of coal, which is neither affordable nor sustainable. I want to remind you that nuclear has the lowest mortality rate of any other energy source per terawatt hour. Here is recent statistics. Actually, no, that says 2012, but these numbers hold up. That coal is the most dangerous, followed by oil, then natural gas, hydro, solar, wind, and nuclear at the bottom has the lowest death rate. Now, you think nuclear and you think, oh no, that's dangerous because of these famous accidents. Well, Fukushima was an earthquake, and many nuclear plants have since been retrofitted for earthquakes. And Chernobyl was human error. That's well documented, actually. So nuclear is not as dangerous as one might think. It just has a bad rap. Now, many countries that are not in the weeds in politics seem to know this. Argentina, for example, is trying to move forward in a partnership with China to build out more nuclear plants. This Reuters article really floors me because see the picture there? It looks like it could come from like Star Trek. Like that's the computers they're using. But it does say here that this picture was taken in April. Doesn't that look?
It looks like it's right out of the Chernobyl. It looks like it's right out of the HBO show
Right.
Chernobyl.
That's
This is-
exactly what I was going to say.
From 1980s. You know?
Yeah, I stared at this picture for a long time and I was like, what there dates this? I guess the flat screen TVs in the far back, and then, you know, some of the monitors are flat screen, but the rest of it, I'm like, is that what a nuclear control room looks like?
Look at the byline, or look at the what do you call it? The courtesy at the bottom of the photo. It says picture taken April 4th, 2022.
Right.
So yeah.
And so it has to be. I even was
Maybe
like, I looked at the. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, maybe according to international law, it's required to look like The Simpsons. Just because it's a nuclear power plant.
It totally does, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess the phones do look like they're from at least the last 20 years, but I stared at this for a long time today. But nevertheless, and it's interesting because I'm going to show you some images of the new Finland nuclear power plant, and they look very modern. So I don't know why this picture of this one in Argentina looks so kind of anachronistic, but nevertheless, I haven't been there. If you have, let me know. Now, interestingly, Argentina was the first South American country to have nuclear power. And now that they've had a taste, they want more. And so they are turning to China because they have had an economic crisis. And they think that China will lend them the money. And they have been working towards that in what seems to be a friendly way. Now, recall that Argentina also wants to move itself off of the dollar and partner up with Brazil for the Sur, which is what they want to call a bloc type currency for all of South America. If they do that, then automatically they are removed from the dollar for their sort of usury exchange rate. And then they don't have quite as much of a cash crisis. So it's interesting to see these South American countries saying, if we have a little bit more autonomy, we have more power to do what we want. And what do we want is nuclear energy. Now, countries, though, that are politicizing their energy seem to be doing the opposite. This weekend, Germany shut down the last of its nuclear plants. They've been warning they were going to do this, and they did, in fact, do it over the weekend. They shut down one and then the next. They did this despite protests from activists like Greta Thunberg, and despite the fact that 69% of the German public in surveys said that they support some form of continued nuclear power.
Fucking idiots. I'm sorry.
Right, because now they are building coal, and coal kills more people.
Stupid douchebags.
From not just mining coal, not just delivering coal, but also the burning of coal and the carbon emissions of coal and the inhalation of people who work in the coal industry and cook with coal. I don't know. I mean, it's really inexplicable. Germany says they're doing this because they can't rely on Russian gas, but they're just pretending that nuclear did not exist in the middle of that spectrum of options. It's very inexplicable. Meanwhile, Finland, which is playing politics with energy by trying to join NATO at least, but they are investing in nuclear. This is I'm not sure, help me say this word, Olkiluoto 3. Olkiluoto. We're going to call it the OL3 because they do.
The only way I could help you say that is if I knew how to spell it, but you don't have to do that. So I'll just take your word. I'll take your word for it. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I wasn't reading my notes.
You also could read the notes.
But I'm listening to you. I'd rather look at you and listen to you.
Okay, darling. So the OL3 nuclear plant went online this weekend, and that makes it the largest nuclear plant in Europe. Now, they're calling it the greatest single climate act in Finland. So it will power on this one island 30% of Finland's electricity from one big nuclear plant. And it will not have carbon emissions because nuclear doesn't. I mean, from the plant production itself, there is a carbon impact of mining and enriching the uranium as well.
You know, as Grasshopper points out in the chat, they're doing this on purpose by the World Economic Forum, right? I mean,
who's they? Because we're pointing out very different.
Well, you're right. When you shut down these nuclear plants, they're doing it because it's all part of the globalist agenda, right? They want to make sure that all of these people who make solar panels and wind farms and all of that make billions of dollars and run, and the lithium battery capacity, all of that, massive amounts of money that is being spent on that. Very little money goes in. They're not making money on the nuclear power, right? They're not making that money. There's not huge nuclear reactor.
Somebody is.
But
countries that export
little.
Uranium are.
Yes. Right. Very, very little. So we don't, and 65 to 70% of all the uranium comes from Russia. Comes right out of Russia. And yeah, but most of it comes from Russia. So they're trying to get away, in the United States has no uranium production at all, virtually nothing. There's one uranium mine. That's it. So it's all World Economic Forum plan to get us away from that so that all of these other renewables, so to speak, can be profitable as part of their plan.
That is a theory. You're right.
Yes.
Although I see where you're going with that.
Although they've told us that, and it's on their freaking website, and that's exactly what they say year in and year out at their World Economic Forum conventions, but it is also a theory of mine.
Okay. We'll put it on our scoreboard.
It's too bad for Germany that pro-Ukrainian forces blew up that one pipeline they had going for them.
Right.
Yes.
They couldn't use that right now without all the nuclear.
It sucks that Putin went down in his little submersible sub and blew up his own pipeline. Putin.
Right. When you think of
again.
the energy that Germans thought that they would have to power their schools and, heat their homes and keep hospitals running and whatnot, they thought they had these nuclear plants that were providing them affordable energy with no carbon footprint. They thought they might have gas at an affordable price. They have neither of those things, and they will instead return to coal.
Yeah.
At a high price.
It's madness. And as Colonel Douglas McGregor has said on our show, he spent a lot of time in Germany. He said Germans have no idea what's coming. He said they have never experienced this, and they have no idea what's coming. It's going to be a dark day for Germany.
What were you going to say, Philip?
Oh, I was just going to say, this is one of those, like an example of government, like making a decision and then not reacting to changes in the situation. They're still going forward with it. So it's like when they made this decision, that's why all of the Nord Stream pipelines went up. They're like, we're getting rid of nuclear after Fukushima. So they're like making all these deals with Russia. Then things change. They no longer have that other side of it, but they're still like, well, no, we're still shutting them down. And it's just like, why? You got to pivot. You have to pivot.
Well, one of the things that politicians say about nuclear is that it's just a little too good, and so it doesn't encourage people to conserve. So then more people will plug in their toothbrushes and their, thermometers and everything that you can power will be powered. Why is that
Because like
funny?
the West is known as being like what like we have so much temperance in things. Like we're just like excess is what we're all about.
Right.
Like we need that.
We need 3 refrigerators, one in the garage for our Bud Light, our our Mulvaney Bud Light, and we need a freezer, and we need another refrigerator in the house in the United States, and you need all of these things.
Yes. So, that's why you see this sort of politics playing of Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, who are saying, no, we can't have nuclear because we care about the environment and it's going to encourage more consumption. And what they want instead is to encourage people to reduce. We've talked many times about the politics of asking people to reduce their consumption of really anything and how it's just not a feasible economic model to ever ask anybody to compromise their life comfort.
Well, isn't it ridiculous also? Because what you're basically saying is, let's not have growth. Let's not have capitalism. Let's not have companies expanding, hiring more people because people might like that type of juice that you produce, and people then buy it, and more people get jobs as a result of consumption and purchases. Do the less of that. Buy fewer things. Don't make your economy burn and churn. Spend less. All of those things.
Right. I mean, the plant we talked about in Argentina would have employed the one that they want to complete. They already have 3, and I think they want 2 more. Would bring on 700 new jobs. And I think it additionally power the country by up to 10%. Right now, I think it's only 7% of Argentina is nuclear powered. But think of the prosperity that something like that brings. And Bjorn Lundberg, in his book False Alarm, talks about how when people increase their prosperity, they lower their carbon footprint, because there is a peak where you stop, say, cooking on gas that is more harmful or whatever. You stop using certain things, you maybe upgrade to certain things.
Well, he talks about you stop using like cow dung to cook on,
right?
Which is like highly toxic. And then a lot of poor countries do that. They actually use manure to cook on, right?
Yeah.
So you stop using those things when you have more abundant electricity, you have more access to power and fuel readily available that allows people to prosper. So it's amazing, the sort of counterintuitive thinking that
and
goes
also
on here.
like there are small sort of measurable economic markers. For instance, if you're buying something, say, I think about when my kids were little, I didn't want to buy them plastic bottles because I was worried about the BPA and the BPS. So I bought glass bottles, and then the glass bottles lasted all 3 babies. Or the cloth diapers that I bought. Like, you buy the more expensive thing the first time, and it lasts longer. So you have people buying fewer things because they buy more quality things if their prosperity increases. And all of these things sort of work into the economic model of, if you promote prosperity for all, rising tide floats all boats. And in fact, it does lower the carbon footprint of people's lives when they are more prosperous.
Yeah, makes sense.
So those kind of things absolutely do make a difference. But anyone who's arguing for other people to consume less has not looked at economic models. They're only virtue signaling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyhow, that's the sort of the politics of energy as it stands this week. This is something we cover here a lot. We appreciate your comments, and we'd like to let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods. What is the energy situation there?
Thank you so much for watching this segment here at Redacted. We are live every day at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, trying to share the stories that the mainstream media will not cover. You should also come over and join our community of Redacted Rebels over at redacted.inc. That's our private locals community where we can share exclusive content that we simply cannot share here on YouTube. Come over and join the rebellion together right now by going to redacted.inc. We'll see you next time.